Move on. So we have Miss Mandy Manning and Ivonne Orozco coming up to the stage. I love this hype up. Keep it going. Alrighty, so just to kind of give you guys a little Miss Mandy Manning, if you don't already know, she is a 2018 National Teacher of the Year. That is a great honor. She shook Donald Trump's hand and had all these amazing buttons on her advocating for LGBTQ rights, immigrants, Black Lives Matter, the works of it. And Miss Ivonne Orozco is the 2018 New Mexico Teacher of the Year, and she is also an immigrant and former DACA recipient. So let's go ahead and give it up for both of these amazing ladies.
All right, thank you, everyone. I think so. This next hour is on teaching about immigration, and so we are going to be modeling what that can look like in your classrooms when you go back on Tuesday, when you go back on Wednesday. So here we go. Okay, so class, I just want you to tell me what makes you feel safe. What makes you feel safe? You can raise your hand or you can just yell it out. What makes you feel safe? Love. Smile? Hugs, family. Affection. Respect. What? Affirmation. What? Hope. Hope. Community. Not too many unexpected things. A place of my own. What else? Culture. Unracist cops. Language. So when you say language, you mean like you hear the language that you speak at home and you hear it out in the community? And culture, you mean people who look like you and who come from the same place? Yes. So seeing people who look and speak like you. A place to call home. What? Food. Food. Are there any other like tactile things or things that, we have a lot of... What? Play? So play. Warmth. What? Access to medical help. Medical access. Teddy bears. Toys. Seatbelts. What? Cross? A cross. For some, a cross. Hugs? Yeah, we have hugs up there. Keys? Peace. Peace. Maybe a calm environment. Friends. Privacy. A job. Okay. All right. So those are the things that keep us safe, or that make us feel safe. So now I'm going to ask you a simple question. What is an immigrant? What's an immigrant? Or who is an immigrant?
My dad.
Your dad.
Mi abuelo.
Mi abuelo. My grandfather.
My neighbor.
My neighbor. Someone born in another country than the one in which they live.
My students.
My students.
Someone seeking refuge.
Someone seeking refuge. So we're going to offer a simple definition. An immigrant is simply a person who leaves the country in which they were born to live in another country. It's a person who leaves the country in which they were born to live in another country. So considering the things that make you feel safe, what would make you leave your country? Violence. I'm gonna wait just a second. What would make you leave? Violence, poverty, opportunities, fear,
No rule of law.
no rule of law, food insecurity, genocide, education, opportunity for education,
Oppression.
rape culture, oppression,
Threats against my children.
threats against your children, war. We also had poverty earlier.
Domestic violence.
Domestic violence. Inequality.
Persecution.
Persecution. Political unrest. Adventure. Adventure. What? Falling in love. Okay. Yes. We added privilege next to adventure. Okay. All right, Ivonne.
These questions and getting thoughts going from our students, they don't have to be experts to understand that some things would make you leave your country. They don't have to be experts to understand the simple definition of an immigrant. They don't have to be experts to understand when people said, mi abuelo or my dad, to understand that you can relate that and you can say, yeah, that's right. These conversations have to start at a very, very basic level with our students. Bell Hooks says that it is crucial to testify and to share in the learning with students and the experiences in the class. And so this is something that I try to do with my students anytime that they have to write a thematic essay. I write a thematic essay. They read a novel, I read a novel. They write a poem about who they are, I write a poem about who I am, because it would not be sincere to have them testify in that way and me not give that to them as well. And so through this work, I like to share my own experience as an immigrant. Soy de Mexico, and I came to the United States 15 years ago when I was 12, and I didn't speak any English. And that made middle school just a tad more difficult than usual. Middle school is a whole different thing, right? But and sharing these experiences with my students and letting them know that, hey, teachers were there taking care of me. I got to go to college, and I would love to do that for you as well, and let's do it together because you deserve that and you have all of this potential that you can reach. And so sharing those stories, sharing the connections, sharing who you are with your students is never wrong. And many people will say, hey, aren't you just supposed to teach content? Aren't you just supposed to teach Spanish? Aren't you just a language teacher? And you have to tell those people that we have to teach both. We teach who our students are and who we are and the content all at the same time. All at the same time, always, always, always. So typically in a lesson after this, you would share your connection to immigration and you would share your knowledge, and then that opens up doors for students to share a little bit about themselves if they would like to. So Mandy will also now briefly share a little bit of her experience.
So my experience as a newcomer is far different than my students' experience, because my students' experience is much more dire. So I have been another. I was in the Peace Corps in Armenia, and I experienced not knowing the language, being one of the only Americans in my community, and then I did the same thing in Japan. But in my situation, it's very, very important to note and to share with my students that I stand in front of them as an other who did so through privilege, not because I was forced to go to a new country. And my situation, I was able to then return home. And I knew that from the very beginning. So my discomfort was temporary, whereas my students' discomfort is likely going to be something that they experienced for the rest of their lives. But that's also an important thing to note as an educator, particularly one who works with kids who come from other areas or other experiences, is that you have to intentionally put yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable in order to even a little bit understand where they're coming from. It's also doing things like this where we ask students to connect immediately with what we're talking about. We ask them what makes them feel safe. We ask them what would make them leave their home. We do this so that they can connect, and that's the beginning of compassion and empathy and being able to reach across difference and welcome different ways of thinking, being, and doing. So that's the first step in teaching about immigration and child detention, is to create connection.
I also wanted to mention that you can also put together a reading list. Now, Mandy wouldn't let me assign a reading to you before this event. But the list of resources will be uploaded to teachersagainstchilddetention.org, so check it out. Sometimes that can be an outlet for students to start speaking about a text, and then that can lead to personal connections. Finally, we just want to call on educators to reflect on your own experiences, reflect on today and your connections to immigration, and then take them to your classrooms and take them because they matter to your students.
And I just want you to know that this particular part of a lesson I did with first graders. So you can do it with little tiny kids, and you can do it all the way to high school. Thank you.